Hey guys, the footage you're about to see is done by a professional. I've been doing this for over 25 years. This footage is for entertainment value only. Please do not try this at home.
So you want to shoot fast, huh? I'm finally waking up today. A lot of people ask me, well, how do I get to the next level? Well, you get to the next level by being the first one on the range and the last one to leave.
Hi, I'm Jerry Miculek and welcome to Miculek.com. This is our second part of the Shoot Fast series. It's got M1 Garand. So I've got 3 or 4 different variations of the M1 here. I'm going to start off with a good CMP model here. What CMP means is the Civilian Marksmanship Program. I bought this one at Anniston Arsenal in Alabama. It's just pretty much a parts gun. It was part of a Lend-Lease gun that was sent to Denmark. It came back. Matter of fact, it has a VAR barrel in it, which is recognized as being a very good barrel. So, give you an idea, these guns were adopted by the U.S. government back in the late 1930s. It replaced the '03 Springfield bolt-action rifle. You can just imagine the difference in the firepower between a bolt-action and a semi-automatic. These were 5 rounds, extremely accurate rifle. These were not quite as accurate, but it held 8 rounds. Semi-automatic, it didn't recoil as much. Faster to reload, faster to shoot. Great advantage for the trooper on the ground. A little bit heavier, but all in all, its service record spoke for itself. I think it lasted until 1954 or 58 when it was finally replaced by the M14. So the other interesting thing about the M1 Garand, it pretty much served in just about any platform that you can imagine. Also have a sniper version of the M1. You can see it has a sight base right. This one has a sight base right ahead of the receiver. It has the cone flash suppressor and the basically laced on cheek piece. So this is a Springfield Armory. There again, just another version of the M1 Garand. Just about any use you can imagine for a long gun, the M1 served service up until the 50s. So that's just another variation of the M1. That's kind of a very brief history of them. What I'd like to show you next is some of the ammunition available for them and what makes them safe to shoot. One thing interesting about the M1 Garand was the ammunition it used. When you go back and research the 30-06 caliber or the M2 ball round used in the Second War, it was also used in the First World War, of course in bolt-action rifles and machine guns. But give you a little brief history of the 30 caliber platform there, that it actually came from the 30-40 Krag round. Used a 220 grain bullet, very similar to this, except there was a full metal jacket round. This is a soft point, but it's still a 220 grain 30 caliber bullet. So as the 30-40 Krag progressed into the 30-06 round, it actually went into a 30-03 round, and it was adopted with a 150 grain bullet in the final 30-06 round. So the 30-03 had a longer neck. They shortened it. They put a Spitzer bullet in it, 150 grain, brought the velocity up. It was a great thing. Had a little bit of complaints about downrange accuracy at extended yardages, so they went into a 175 grain bolt tail. You can see now we get more of a shape of a modern ballistic coefficient. Let me say that. Let me start. We're getting more into a modern shape of a projectile here with the bolt tail design. These 175s shot really well at extended ranges. One thing that they didn't like about it was the recoil aspect of it by the user. So they went back in the Second War. Basically the M2 30 caliber round used a 150 grain flat base bullet, much like this. This is actually a Cupro nickel World War I era 150 grain 30 caliber projectile. See, it has a flat base, not as aerodynamic as the 175. It's a little bit less effective past 600-800 yards. So anyway, that gives you an idea of the bullets that were adopted. Another interesting aspect of the M2 round, Second War, it was available in an AP round with the black tip. So if you see a cartridge like this, the black designated armor piercing, and what made it armor piercing was it actually had a hardened steel core in it. If you notice, this penetrator is just about the entire length of the bullet. This bullet weighed about 163 grains, 165 grains before I cut it up with a hacksaw. You notice in the front here, where the jacket comes to the front of the projectile, is a little bit of lead. So apparently they drew a jacket, just had a small bit of lead, they inserted the steel core, sealed it with a cap. It looks to be a brass or a bronze cap, and that was encapsulated by the base of the bullet. So the whole projectile in the M2 AP round weighed 163 grains, 165 grains. So talking to the old snipers from the World War II era, I knew a gentleman who was a Marine Corps sniper. He actually preferred the M2 round over the ball round as a sniper round. So another interesting thing, there was really not a designated sniper grade cartridge for their sniping system. So they had to pick and choose the best they could find. So he thought the M2 military AP round was a little bit better at long range than the 150 grain ball. So it's an interesting bullet. Going on to the cartridge itself and the clips, this is what really separated the M1 in the Second War from all the other infantry rifles, was the ability to put 8 rounds into the firearm and discharge it and then load it again quickly. When you fired the last shot, it expelled the clip. This is actually an ammunition clip. When you fired the last round, it ejected out of the top, so you charged it again with another 8 rounds. The only downfall of this system is that you couldn't top it off. You could actually take what was left of the ammunition out, but you couldn't physically top it off. And that was one of the downfalls of the M1. And I actually think the military wanted the guys not to have the ability to shoot too many rounds too quick, as bad as that might sound. So, and when you consider the BAR had a 20-round magazine, it wouldn't have been really that much harder to convert the BAR mag for use in the M1 Garand. But they chose to go with this platform instead. It's kind of an interesting idea, limiting the firepower of a soldier. But you have to remember, when they just came from the bolt-action rifles, they thought giving a soldier 8 rounds semi-automatic was a great waste of ammunition. But they also found later, in a lot of the battles of the Second War, that the firepower for the individual soldier was so vast compared to the bolt action that it caused havoc on the enemy. So as long as you had ammo, you could really put it down range quick. So that's a pretty interesting concept. The 8-round clip and how it loaded and unloaded is very unique to that M1 Garand. Show you a little bit of blast from the past here. This is a box of Frankfurt Arsenal 30 caliber M1 bullets. These are these 175 grain bolt tails I was showing you. I don't know if really this is First War or Second War era, but I would, from the condition of the box, I would probably think that it's the First World War era, so somewhere in the 1920s. And what we'll be shooting on the range is this Greek ball, M2 ball ammunition. It's the standard 150 grain. This also came from the CMP a couple of years ago. It's actually some really good ammunition. An interesting thing about most of the European manufactured cartridges is that it has a bimetal case. This is actually a steel jacketed bullet, a mild steel jacket with a copper wash on it. When it's done correctly, it can be just as accurate as a copper jacketed bullet. Most European rifle cartridges that you find are manufactured with a steel jacket. It's more cost effective, and what can you say? We like to waste a lot of materials in the United States, so a lot of perception that it's actually hard on the barrel, but when it's done correctly, it's not a bad thing. I've seen a lot of M60 ammunition with steel jacketed 308 rounds in it. So anyway, when it's done correctly, it's not a bad projectile. The only downside of it, if you're shooting on steel targets out in the desert, that steel, when it hits steel, it makes a lot of sparks. It can start a lot of downrange fires, so that's something you want to consider when you're out in an area or a rifle range that might have a fire hazard. You might want to leave the steel jacketed ammo at home. Okay, we're going to give you a quick introduction to the timer. These timers are accurate down to 100th of a second, so we can put a par time, we can put a delay start, we can put a quick start, whatever. But every time we fire a shot, it registers on the timer. We can go back and actually see what it took. When I talk about a shot split, that means the time in between each shot. So a split time rapid fire is usually 20 hundredths of a second, 2/10 of a second, 15 hundredths of a second. So when you hear split times, that's what we are talking about, is actually what it took to pull the trigger for each and every individual shot. So with this little gizmo here, we can go back and see and register it and then tell you exactly what we did on the range. The rifle we're going to shoot today is that CMP Garand that went to Denmark. It made its way back through the Lend-Lease program. CMP is funded by sales of these M1 Garand. So it's a great marksmanship program. It gets a lot of junior shooters into the shooting sports. Every time I pass through Anniston Arsenal, I usually try to stop and buy at least one gun. So anyway, we're going to take this one out and just actually see how fast we can shoot it. Okay, we're out on the range. I got my M1 Garand. I've got a clip of 150 grain M2 ball ammo. I've got 3 targets at 7 yards. They're about a target width apart. So what I'm going to do on the timer is react to the timer and come up and fire 6 rounds on the target in the middle. So what we're looking for is the split times in between shots and see what we can do with this M1 Garand. All right, target in the middle. Here we go. I do have to say that was kind of fun. I'm going to go ahead and unload and we'll take a look at the target. Let's take a quick look at the target here. The hardest thing for me was trying to keep the front sight in focus. I'm kind of spoiled to a red dot. Anyway, that's the first time I actually shot one of these wide open. It's pretty fun. You can see it had a little backsplash from the berm there. They're all on target, about the same elevation. First shot react was a .71 and the total time was a 156. So that's about an 81 hundredths of a second. 85 hundredths of a second. So if you do the math on that, it's about 17 hundredths of a second in between shots. So not bad. You can see the firepower of that M1 come into play here every 17 hundredths of a second. I'm cutting loose with the round and keeping them on target. It's pretty impressive. That first burst was all right, but I think I can make these 6 shots a little bit better on the target, a little bit tighter grouping. So I've got another clip of ammo here. We'll go ahead and load it up. 150 ball ammo. And let's go ahead and shoot that target again. First to the last shot. See if we can beat our time here. Target in the middle. Here we go. All right. Let's go see what we did. That was a little bit quicker. That averaged about 16 hundredths of a second between shots. What was interesting about that, the rifle really didn't recoil all that bad. It's kind of a long recoil cycle, so being this is my first 12 shots on target rapid fire, it's not all that bad. Got 3 and 3, so it's kind of a learning curve. It's kind of a fun thing to shoot fast. It gives you some idea of the firepower associated with the M1 Garand. We're going to do something a little bit different. I put 6 rounds on target. We're doing about 16, 17 splits. We're going to try to make it a little harder. We're going to shoot 2 shots on each of the 3 targets. I'm going to try to get as close as I can to 1700 splits. I've downloaded the magazine to only 6 rounds, so the clip should fly out on the last round. Got my GoPro on my head here, so let's go ahead and put 2 on each. It's going to take me a second to load this clip. Let's see what we can do here. There we go. All right, guys, here we go. 2 on each. From the low ready. Stand by. Now that right there was just pure fun. I don't know if it was good for you, but it was good for me. Let's go down range, take a look at it. Now you do have to say, guys, that was a lot of fun. First time through a target sequence with that M1 Garand. First shot of 62 hundredths. and the last shot was a 156, just a hair slower, a little over 1800ths of a second per shot per target. So it didn't take me but 1800ths to move over. I want to show you some shot groupings here. First shot, I got a little anxious, started pulling off target a little early, but you can see this second target got good center of mass hits, 2 shots, and then the third target, center of mass, 2 shots. I think if I had a chance to shoot 500 or 600 rounds out of this M1, it would be pretty effective. I can see why the guys in the Second War really appreciated the firepower of this M1 Garand. As you might have guessed from this footage, that this is all about the firepower of the M1 Garand. Just think about Second War soldier facing a bayonet charge in the Eastern Front or in the South Pacific. Same thing there, a mass charge of people. You got your M1 Garand. As you can see downrange, we got 5 bad guys coming at us. I've got my trusty M1. I've got 8 rounds of military ball. I'm going to go ahead and shoot it out and see if the bad guys will make it to me or not. Here we go. Let's do it. Here we go. As you can see, they didn't make it. I won the day. The M1 Garand proved to be the decisive factor here. Man versus soda. As you can see, even the M2 full metal jacket ball ammo is pretty effective up close. All the bad guys are bleeding out pretty good. We won the moment. We live to fight another day. Okay, we're going to take this 150 grain flat base ball round. I've got 5 volunteer 2-liter bottles down there. I'm going to step off about 8, 7, 10 yards or whatever and see if we can get all 5 bottles in one shot. That's asking a lot out of one bullet, but let's just see what'll happen. I'm kind of amazed at what I'm seeing here. We've got a 2 or 3 of them gone, and the back 2 are intact. It must have pushed them out of the way. It's going to be interesting to see on camera really what happened. So there you have it, the M1 Garand, 8 shots, full caliber battle rifle. Adopted back in 1937, 1938, served all the way into 1954, I think. So you have a full caliber 8-round semi-automatic battle rifle. As you can see, it's easy to shoot fast. The U.S. soldiers who had these in the Second War had the superiority of a firearm that was going to function well and was accurate, well built, the right tool, the right time. Anyway, I would like for you to subscribe to Miculek.com for our next episode. It's going to be on the AR-15, and that thing is even faster.